Hey everybody, it's Cynics, and I'm going to do a quick tutorial on making sprites. As you can see, I drew a little gear here. I made it in Painter, but I just pulled it right over. It's a JPEG. So I'm just going to resize it down to something more sprightly, like 50 pixels or something. And now, as you can see, it's going to have a bunch of like transparent, ugly little jaggedy pixels around the edge. So I'm just going to use this magic eraser and try to get rid of as many of them as I can by setting the tolerance high, and it'll just pick them off. And now I'm just going to go around and set the background to something really purpley, or just the color doesn't matter, but you want something that'll really make all the ugly little pixels stand out, so some sort of even mid-tone that'll just make everything stand out. And now I can really kind of pick away at all the little light colored pixels that'll make your sprite look really ugly if you leave them in. There's a lot of ways you can get rid of them. Obviously, you can work from the start just making your sprite at pixel size using a pixel brush or just a pencil tool to draw your sprite at working size, but I'm too lazy for that. So I got rid of most of them just using the pencil tool and just going over and making them darker so they don't really stand out. And now I think for this animation I'm gonna make the sprite, I'm gonna make the gear look like it's turning in a 360 motion. So I'm just copying the layer that it's on and making two copies. Each time I'm shrinking it down using the scale, and I'm just pinching it kind of narrow, and that'll make for a this is kind of a cheater's way to do it, because like I said, this is just for a tutorial, so I'm being very lazy. All the sprites are going to be pretty ugly, but that's okay. And now I'm just cleaning it up. I've made two shorter versions just to kind of make it look like it's rotating, as you can see. Simply just pulling it in will make it look like that, and I'm going to add some 3D effects later on. Just so, well, not 3D effects, but give it some sides. Here we go. It's kind of putting in some quick sides here to my little gear. And I'm using just the pencil brush for this, just doing it by hand. As quick as I can, really. There's not that much to making a sprite. It's mainly just about having the right tools. As you can see, I'm using Photoshop for this. This is an old version of Photoshop when they still had image ready built in. But I'm sure there's plenty of ways. I think now the newer versions of Photoshop, they have the animation features built right in, so you don't even have to use image ready. But I don't know. I like image ready. There's other free programs that can probably do a similar job. And now I'm making the purely side view of my gear. As you can see, it's kind of got an animation. And now to be even more lazy, if that's possible, I'm just going to use the other frames and mirror them using the flip horizontal view. And now I'm just mirroring those two, so I just made a full 360 revolution by only using like basically three different frames. Well, actually four if you count that side one. That only took a second to make. Now I'm in image ready, and I'm just using my little timeline bar. That's the thing at the bottom, the timeline bar, and you just add a frame. You press the add a frame button. Then you just go through turning on and off the layers you want on and off. I pretty much have a layer for each different blah blah blah. Anyway, I have a different layer for every different frame in this animation, and I just kind of put them together real fast. As you can see here, you get a good look at all the layers. Now I'm gonna lock them all together, so you don't have to, but that's gonna make this easier. And I'm gonna make the whole animation bounce up and down a little bit, just kind of going through by hand, moving each frame lower and higher depending on what I want it to do. And at this point, you pretty much have it done. Just doing some fine tweaking here. I kind of messed it up a little, but yeah, now I have an animation that not only turns, but it goes up and down a little, gives it a little more life, and I'm doing this all with pretty much nothing to work with. I pretty much came in with just the gear. I squished it to make the little spinning side views, and that was pretty much it. I'm going to go back into Photoshop, and on another layer, I'm going to start adding in a little shadow just to give it a little more extra animation. The nice thing about doing it like this is just always being able to like throw in layers for different secondary animations. Like right now, I'm just adding a new layer and making the shadow get bigger and smaller on separate layers. So this won't affect any of the other spinning animation or any of the other stuff. And it'll make it very easy to animate and image ready just by turning off and on layers. That's the best thing about this Photoshop and image ready, making animations in it, is just being able to do stuff on different layers and turn them off and on. And now I'm just deciding which shadow. Ah, there we go. That's pretty much all you need to do, and I think I'm pretty much done with that. You can get a 100% zoom view of it. Now I'm just going to open the little save window. It has all of your save options to the right there, and you could make sure transparency is on. The dither doesn't really matter because I'm pretty clean with the edges. I mean, they're not perfect, but whatever, it'll clean them up. And then I'm just going to save it. Now, saving is a good way to coagulate what you've done so far, and then you can go back and make other changes. If you try to make the changes before you save, you'll have to deal with maybe messing up the animation because it's pretty hectic as you have it. But if you save it first, then you can go back and it'll have all the frames will be saved as separate layers, so you can go through to each layer like I'm doing now and add all kinds of other effects if you want to. And right now I'm adding a glow or like shiny little, I don't know, light reflections, speculars, just to separate frames where I feel like adding them. And that's gonna make a little shiny animation. I think that's pretty much everything for this. So I'll try some other stuff and give my tips on those. On to some other techniques. Anyway, I made this little orange guy here, and I'm just going to use the polygonal lasso tool to kind of dissect him and move his little parts around. Using the same drawing, you can create a lot of animation just by moving the separate little parts and pieces around. This is kind of popular if you see games like Street Fighter and things. A lot of the idle animations are just one drawing, but they're moved around really craftily to make it look like it's highly animated. And right now, I'm just kind of dissecting him and taking the various parts and putting them on completely separate layers. So, I'm just going to do that real fast. I have this sped up as much as possible just so I don't spend too much time on it. And I'm just duplicating the layer and erasing the separate parts. So that's a pretty fast way to do it. Kind of want to make sure each layer is in back of the one it should be in back of, and there you go. I have it on about 5 different layers. I think the separate parts are head, torso, uh, lower midsection, and the lower legs, all on separate layers. And now I'm just kind of going into image ready and moving them around in various ways to kind of give them some animation. And there we go. We have a finished animation. Kind of looks like he's breathing heavily or just kind of, I don't know, whatever. Let's try something else here. This is just going to be a quick thing on frame by frame animation and onion skinning. As you can see, I draw something, I make a new layer. Well, first I lower the opacity of the last one so I can kind of see straight through it. And then I just make a new layer and keep working like that. And that's a really fast way to animate something frame by frame. Most animation programs have an onion skin feature built in if they're like dedicated toward animation. Photoshop doesn't, so you just kind of got to go through by hand and lower opacity and get rid of frames and stuff. And now I'm using you can lock, the best feature is you can lock the transparent pixels, so that'll prevent you from messing up the quality of your animation and just kind of add highlights and things like that. So I did that, and then I took it into Image Ready and made it animated really fast, and there you go, little dust off animation. And that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'm tired of talking.